I'm guessing many of you are not going to be surprised that when I say to you, hey, Trump got shot in the head, it grazed his ear, by a Republican, reportedly right-leaning 20-year-old, who do you think Republicans will blame? Most of you probably wouldn't be shocked to hear that it's a combination of conspiracy theories, blaming Democrats, blaming wokeness, blaming DEI, when really they need to be looking at the political movement that has justified using violence to achieve political means, and that is them, okay? I denounce the shooting as I do all violence, and to blame Biden or DEI makes no sense. Here's Congressman, before we even get to the video, Congressman Mike Collins tweeting, Joe Biden sent the orders. A disgusting, irresponsible tweet from a sitting member of the House of Representatives. Repugnant and reactionary Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeting, someone just tried to assassinate President Trump. The Democrats and the media are to blame for every drop of blood spilled today. For years and years, they've demonized him and his supporters. Today, someone finally tried to take out the leader of our America First and the greatest president of all time. Watch the video. President Trump said, fight, so we will. She is blaming Democrats and the media for a Republican shooting Trump in the midst of years of Republicans justifying violence. And she is saying we now are going to fight, suggesting there will be more violence. Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican on CNN, reacting to Donald Trump's shooting by calling out identity politics and critical race theory.
Said something about how we all love our country, and I think it's generally true. Most Americans do love their country. One thing that I have found upsetting, if I can editorialize for 1 second, is the degree to which so many Americans claim to love their country but hate their fellow Americans. And I'm not talking about Republicans or Democrats. I see it everywhere. And I'm wondering if that's something that concerns you too.
It does. That's what I said. The greatest threat to our nation right now is that we're horribly divided. But again, in general, we share the same goals. So, why are we so divided? Well, there are political figures, there are political groups. I would argue that's what identity politics is about. That's what critical race theory is about. So there are people who are purposely trying to divide us for political advantage. Resist it. Don't let them get away with it. And again, start talking to each other.
Identity politics and critical race theory are to blame. Republican Congressman Tim Burchett went on Fox News, and he said the problem is DEI because DEI led to someone, I guess he's talking about the director of Secret Service, who's a woman, saying that she was only hired because of DEI, and that's what's to blame.
Same thing. How the hell did he get on top of that roof? If you look at the pictures, he didn't go through the top of the roof. There had to be a ladder or something. Somebody really dropped the ball. You've got a DEI, basically a person, a DEI initiative person who heads up our Secret Service. She was working at Pepsi before this. I know she was a former Secret Service agent, but still, this is what happens when you don't put the best players in.
So there is the suggestion that a DEI hire of a woman to run Secret Service is what is to blame here. And then we have some other examples. J.D. Vance, quote on Twitter, today is not just some isolated incident. The central premise of the Biden campaign is that Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. Of course, the reality is that President Trump is a candidate who should be stopped at the cost of voting him out. That has been the message from the left. It's really wild that a 20-year-old white male, registered Republican gun enthusiast shoots at Trump, and Republicans blame women, DEI, critical race theory, and identity politics. Now, here's the reality. Trump and his followers, more importantly, including his endorsed politicians and cabinet officials, they've all been using and spreading violent rhetoric for a very long time. The lead author of Project 2025 on Steve Bannon's podcast said, it's on the left to make the revolution bloodless. The left might make it, so we have to get them bloody. Trump, with years of calls to violence, legitimizing the use of violence, orchestrating January 6th, and then saying those violent criminals, they're actually hostages, they're actually patriots. Republicans don't really need any of the conspiracy theories that are spreading about this shooting for us to actually say, hey, look at the rhetoric. They blamed Antifa when it was January 6th and Trump rioters that were doing it. Trump suggested once that the Second Amendment people deal with Hillary Clinton. They're against gun safety laws that maybe would have done something to prevent this guy from having what he had. We don't know that, but it's a possibility. There is alarming rhetoric about political retribution being acceptable, and Trump talking for a year now about, I don't think the American people are going to stand for XYZ, alluding to violence there. If you regularly suggest that there is validity to violence for political influence, then all of a sudden there are going to be people willing to do violence. And that has not been coming from the left. So, of course, as is always the case with these situations, we have to blame the person who did the thing. But then when Republicans come out and say DEI and Biden are the reason this happened, what about the 8 years of violent rhetoric from their side? And if you ignore it, you do so because you want to bury your head in the sand and not talk about what's going on. Now, after the break, we're going to look at some of the more specific examples of these calls to violence, and we will talk about the political implications. It's always a sensitive moment after any tragic event. And also, we're in the middle of the Biden cognitive situation, RNC, DNC, presidential election, many thoughts from different people about what this does to the campaign. I'll give you mine after this very short break. Right now, we are seeing candidates do whatever it takes to win your vote, and how the media chooses to cover certain stories, if at all, can completely shape your perspective of those candidates. But our sponsor, Ground News, is an awesome resource at a time like this. With their Vantage plan, I get access to what's called their blind spot feed that shows me stories that can be easily missed. For instance, I'm looking here at Ground News' summary about Trump distancing himself from Project 2025 amid its rising controversy, something we've been talking about. Ground News provides a great summary of the situation based on over 100 articles that Ground News found reporting on it. And Ground News shows me that almost no conservative news outlets are covering the story. Not a surprise. Ground News shows us that the right-wing outlets only report on how Trump is denying involvement with the project, while the center and left outlets are actually giving context on Trump's connections to the movement of Project 2025. Every story comes with this visual breakdown of the political biases and ownership of the reporting news outlets, which is really important to know as well. Go to ground.news/Pacman or scan my QR code for 40% off the same unlimited access Vantage plan that I use.